Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
Porn site Browsers just released the 10 weirdest types of porn that got a surprisingly high number of searches this year. And Minnesota shows up with one of them with the most searches.
It always does. Every year, Minnesota's very high on the list.
The most searches in Minnesota for this weird type of porn.
Fluffies.
Pokemon. Pokemon porn. Candace, what the hell are you watching?
Work?
Well, I love Pokemon. I just don't know if I need it that way.
How's it spelled? Is it Pokemon?
Weird.
Well, you know, different strokes for different folks. I don't Minnesota with the most searches there. Well, the winters get long, don't they? Alien porn. Tony, now I'm looking at you.
Okay, fair enough.
Curious what that looks like.
Well, think of Star Trek. And I mean, Kirk was always getting it on with some sexy extraterrestrial of some sort.
Yeah, I always wanted to get it on with a green woman. Old man. Now, wait a minute.
Wow.
Why is that weird? What's wrong with old man porn? Huh?
What?
I'm just saying. I'm ready to go, Coach. Yeah, poop porn. That's always weird. We just don't understand it, right? I mean, it's what trips someone's trigger. I know a gal once that only could have an orgasm when she had to poop. So she'd be like, I gotta go really bad. Can we? Do you mind? I'm like, I'm sure, because she would have it put pressure on something inside there.
So you took her out for tacos like nightly.
Constantly bringing home prune juice again. I'm going to make you a cosmopolitan with this fantastic prune juice I picked up today.
New twist on the old fashioned.
Hairy porn?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, we have a taker over here. Candace is clicking on hairy porn.
Yeah, I'd rather have hair than bear, you know.
You're talking about a guy with a big macho hairy chest, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's very, Tom Selleck right there. I don't know who pops into my mind when I think of hairy dudes.
That's popped in there quick.
Top of the, I'm just saying. It just seems like a cool guy, too, to have a beer with. All right, Star Wars porn. Now I'm looking at myself. Do we just put on the Princess Leia head bun kind of thing? Or someone puts on a C-3PO helmet and away you go? May the Force be with you. Oh my God. Well, that seems a bit aggressive, doesn't it? Sister porn. Let's hope that's down south. I don't think that's in Minnesota. We're classy, enlightened individuals when it comes to our porn.
Maybe it means, well, I hate to say it, a nun. Oh,
okay. Wait a second. That's got my attention. That's taboo.
Or like polygamists,
Sure.
Sister wives.
Yes.
I don't know.
Then we get up to milking porn.
Oh.
I don't know what to do with that one either. I mean, it's milking, mammaries, boobs, but milking, Out of this list, everyone listening, including the three of us, is going to go Google one of these, at least. 2 burglar porn. That doesn't seem that weird, that whole forbidden intruder kind of thing coming in and, no, don't hurt me, take me. The number 1, a weird porn search, again, disturbing, but not illegal, I guess, step-parent porn. Just good old, again, taboo, right? They're not my actual parents. So they're a step-parent. I'm a teenager, not of age, let's say 18. And mom goes out and gets a new husband, and he's hairy, Candace, and he's really into Pokemon, and you just find yourself alone with him, and right, boy, that went fast. We're already out of time.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Mistletoe, the original name, according to a website, Interflora, was Mistalton. Mistle comes from the Anglo-Saxon word for dung, and tan means stick. So mistletoe translates to dung on a stick.
Well, give us a kiss makes sense then.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say what I want to say, the SH stick on the air. So I guess I should hold back. But I've certainly said that to somebody. Well, listen to me, you stupid blank stick.
Right.
And now I'm going to look at someone when they piss me off and say, hey, yo, mistletoe, back off. In a simpler time, it's just like, you get this pretty girl under here and take onto the poop stick. She's going to, if she kisses you under the poop stick, it's real love. She doesn't care that there's dung dripping into her beautiful red hair.
Ew.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, if you get that maybe that's what it was. It was a test of, does the smell drive the girl away, or will she kiss you under the poop stick? And if so, she's the kind of woman you want to breed with.
Yeah.
These are very different times when these traditions were established. Yeah, they used to, those guys, it's like they had the internal algorithm. They would just be like, but based on the ratio from hips to shoulders, I don't think she's a good one for breeding. It's all that kind of stuff. By the way, I'm so glad I remember this, because I didn't want to walk past this. Guys, if you're looking for something very special for the holiday, you can literally just take a look at the Neiman Marcus catalog. Here's some gift ideas. Okay. And this is the kind of thing, because we sit around here at the KQ Morning Show and think, we're jaded. We've all had so many amazing experiences in life. What could possibly get us excited about Christmas? How about this one? The Disney Animation Experience. You can voice your own character, get a private tour of the Walt Disney Animation Studios in Burbank, have special meet and greets and photo opportunities. After the animators have worked their magic, you get a digital copy of your personalized character's cameo in a special animated short video. Does anyone want to guess how much this costs? It's a real thing you can get. I'll give you three options. All right. $75,000, $235,000,
oh my God,
$510,000.
75.
Mm-hmm. Right in the middle. I'll go in the middle. I'll go for the six figures.
$510,000. $500,000 for a DVD to take home that no one you've ever met will actually want to watch.
Oh,
pretty sure there's an app for that you can download for
Thank you.
$2.99. Make your own
Thank you.
video. Okay.
well, they throw in lunch, I assume. That would be nice.
God, can you imagine? We've got In-N-Out burgers in the cafeteria. How about this? The Olympic Games in Paris. That's this coming summer, 2024. Yeah. You can take in the Olympic Games with Ralph Lauren. Join Ralph Lauren, the designer. He's an official outfitter of Team USA's. You can join him at the Olympic Games in Paris for one of the world's greatest sporting events. No details on how many of the actual events you'll spend with him, but you get to hang out with Ralph, who literally, what do you want to, what do you have a conversation with Ralph Lauren about? I had a polo shirt in 1981. And
I used to pop my collar. Is it still cool?
I was into Izod, but then I saw polo and was like, oh, it's so much better than an alligator. Yeah. $210,000 to go hang out with some snooty douchebag in Paris.
With Ralph Lifshitz.
Tommy Hilfiger?
Ralph, what'd you say, Tony?
His real name was Ralph Lifshitz.
That makes perfect sense.
Really?
Bring that up.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Lifshitz.
Yeah.
Jeez. Man, that's like a joke for guys who work on the loading dock all day. Yeah, I've been lifting all this shits all day long. This is going to be a great holiday.
God, what if you had a super rich friend that did things like this, and you're like, hey, I made you an ornament. I don't know. I could do it.
The gift exchange.
Right? Exactly. It would be awkward. Yeah.
I guarantee you there is some super rich guy out there who, once in his life someone did that. Someone just said, I just saw this little ornament and it made me think of you. And the guy's like, that's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever done, because nobody actually just has human interaction at that certain level.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Letterman returning to the scene of the crime, at least his CBS show. Stephen Colbert, welcome Letterman back. I saw some clips, and honestly, I was surprised at how kind of goosebumpy it was for me. I grew up a Letterman fanatic, so it was pretty awesome to see.
My guest tonight certainly needs no introduction. Please welcome back to the Ed Sullivan Theater, Mr. David Letterman.
Stephen, control your people. This is the most enthusiastic audience I have been near since the night I announced I was quitting.
Oh, you got to have that bass slide there, the rim shot and the boom.
Sure.
I remember first seeing David Letterman in 1982. I want to say 1982. Before he started, late nights after Johnny Carson, they had him on NBC early morning.
Yeah,
when us farm kids used to get up. And I remember one morning, and he had the big curly hair. He couldn't have looked goofier.
Nope.
You know, we became accustomed to his look after a while, right? But there, I thought, who the heck is that? And he was young, and he was weird, and he was trying to figure out how to operate a forklift. They had forklifts there in the NBC studio, and he just walked over. He said, "Here, let me see that. Can I drive? Show me how to work this thing." And it seemed very spontaneous and impromptu, and I became a fan that day and remained for many, many years. You know,
Sure.
until late night television became irrelevant.
That was
Kind of a
must
little
watch
bit.
every night.
Yeah.
Tony,
Oh, yeah.
Tony, you as a guy who started writing and then even performing comedy and going into it, I look at you and it just hits me. I'm like, oh, Letterman is just everything. I mean, sure, in those years especially because you were a few years older than me, and what Letterman was doing to me when late night started, you had a few years of experience. It probably hit you even deeper.
That was the dream, is to someday be involved with that show somehow. I knew a guy who submitted a couple jokes, and he was like a god just for having any involvement whatsoever. Yeah, Dave changed it all. It was you had to watch it.
Yeah.
It shaped humor.
It truly did. It was so. I mean, you say whatever, irreverent or left of center in terms of comic. It was so unexpected. But I never got the sense he was trying to be weird. He was just weird. You know what I mean? Like they just thought differently. And for me, the late night show started. I'm in 11th grade. Just a perfect time to have a wide open brain looking for new information to fill it. And it's. I mean, playing. I played on Letterman a bunch with the band, and I've talked to other musicians. Now, I mean, for stand-up comics, for writers, for performers, going on Letterman's a huge deal. For every band you talk to, if you ever talk to a musician, especially in a rock band that was ever on Letterman, that was the one you wanted. I mean, more than any other talk show, it was like, man, you did Dave? How was he? Was he cool? I mean, there was something about Dave that just crossed over right to bands. And famously, well, like there's a band called The National that was on last night because Dave asked them to come on. Stephen Colbert said, come on my show. And Dave said, can we have The National? And then, of course, his final show, he had the Foo Fighters come out because he had a very deep connection with that band after his heart attack. He listened to a lot of their music. He was just a guy that to for whatever it's worth, and the first time we played Letterman in 1990, I didn't even play. They didn't even allow the rhythm section of the Black Crowes to play. It was the house band and our singer and guitarists. And I was I wasn't upset at all. I couldn't believe, like Tony, like your friend got a couple jokes submitted. He was just being in the studio there. I was in absolute shock. I was looking for Larry Bud Melman. I was,
under the stage.
I was looking for the Alka-Seltzer suit. I'm thinking about all the things and in my dorm, that's the thing, man. Late night TV. I mean, where is it now? What is the point almost? Do you know anybody that watches late night TV in real time?
Well, he was kind of the first to blend smart and silly seamlessly. One of my favorite moments on that show is they had a little bit, it was called Supermarket Finds. It was just ridiculous where they would go and look at silly things that you'd find on the shelves of grocery stores.
Yeah.
But for the theme song, all of a sudden the screen burst open and it was Tom Jones singing the theme to Supermarket Finds.
Sure.
Just preposterous.
Yeah.
But you never knew what was going to happen.
Oh, when he was on CBS, he'd leave the late night. I mean, he'd walk around there just to the deli, get a little something from the deli. And
Yes,
turn
hello,
the entire
deli.
day. Well, Steve, you were on the Black Crowes, that is, on more than just the late night with David Letterman show. And you said you didn't have much interaction with him. How was it different than being on, say, the Conan show?
Well, the Letterman show was always we never saw him. We never crossed paths. You'd go to your dressing room, you'd go rehearse, you'd spend the whole afternoon there getting ready for the show. And like Paul Schaefer and the band, always, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Remembered everyone's name every time. Super pros, great guys. They want to talk about gear. You watch the guitar players go have their little guitar gear jerk off in the corner, like whatever. But but great guys. And Dave was just never around. You'd see him when he'd come over. The song would end, he'd shake your hand, and that's the only time we ever ever saw the guy. But that was okay. Like, it seemed to be perfectly acceptable that he was just unavailable somehow. Conan was the exact opposite. He just wanted to hang out with the band. He was like, and he would say, like, sorry, just tell me to leave if I'm bugging you with my questions, and it was kind of exactly what you would expect. Yeah. Also, but that was also awesome. Those were the two best ones to do every time, both because they're in New York. There's a different energy. We never did Carson. We did the Tonight Show in Jay Leno's first week as the host in '92, and I was not a Leno guy, and I was already, and of course, like everyone, I'd taken sides, and I was pro Dave and anti Jay. But when we did Leno, also, I mean, I didn't care for his show, but he was a great guy. Always came in, said hi, did the thing. What's you doing? Need anything? Let me know. Couldn't have been a nicer fella. But again, at the end of all of it, never once met Dave, and that was always the coolest place to be for some reason. It was like, just because it was Dave, and that takes me right back to 1982 in a small town in Kentucky, looking at my TV going, I'm not even sure what's happening, but I just need to be a part of that somehow.
Have you ever seen the video of him sucking on Jennifer Aniston's hair?
I have not.
No.
It's real creepy.
He's a creepy guy, but boy, was he funny.
Yeah,
and
sometimes you gotta be creepy to be funny.
Have you guys watched his Netflix show, his new interview show?
Yeah, a couple episodes.
I mean, and without the constraints of network people telling him to remember to do this. I mean, him just sort of unfiltered and unfettered. He really is just brilliant. I mean, what an insightful, smart man. And it's, I don't know, I'm a card-carrying fan. And so anyway, to see him walk out there last night, all white hair, white beard, looking great, it just made, I was really happy.
I think someone tweeted an emaciated Santa. This is Colbert asking Letterman last night after his years in late-night television what he misses most.
What do you miss about it after all those 4,000 shows? What do you miss most about doing, if there is anything?
Oh, I miss everything. I mean, mostly it's fun. Very few things in life provide one the opportunity, and I can't speak for you or to you on this topic, but for me, if you muck one up, 24 hours later, you get to try again. And that's a pretty good device. And then when you do something that you're really proud of, you think, by God, let's do that again. And 6-7 years later, you have that experience once more.
Yeah, we can relate.
Yeah, right.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Back to the best of the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
The first time I've only asked for a couple autographs in my life, and one of them was in 1988. I saw Jimmy Page in Atlanta at a strip club. And I walked over to his table, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Page, can I get your autograph, please?" And he was hammered. He's like, sure. And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Steve." And then he looked at me and waited for me to spell it. And then he scribbled on just a cocktail napkin, "Steve, rock on, Jimmy Page." And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. Within a couple days, I'm at work at the record store, and there's a guy who came in who's a known autograph collector back then. And he literally came up to me and goes, "I heard you got a Jimmy Page." Like, I'm like, well, you heard, what? How did that word gets around?
Street,
I mean, you tell I thought that was so weird. Like, I had been in the 3 or 4 days since getting the autograph drunkenly telling everyone I met, but apparently they told people too. And so anyway, he literally goes, "Man, I would give you, is it for sale?" And I was like, "It's for sale? No, what are you talking about? It's just a napkin." And then he looked at me and he goes, "Well, I have a landscaping business. I'll cut your grass for a while." And I said, "I tell you what, you cut my yard for life." And he literally goes, "Okay." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And I was and here's the deal. I was one of 3 tenants in a house we were renting. But the main tenant was my manager at the record store, and he was always angry at me for being late with the rent and being a terrible employee. And so we had some contentious moments. Not only was I his worst employee, I was renting a room in his house. And so I hooked it up so the guy would cut the grass at at his place. And so then I was off the hook for a long time. And then I moved out. And then after I left, he stopped cutting the grass. But I was like, man, I really should have kept in touch with that guy. Because a few years later, I had my own yard, and I could have held that over his head.
I'm pretty sure you would have had the opportunity once again to get Jimmy's autograph. And,
That's true.
Just one of the many, many, many times you guys just hung out casually.
I did tell him that story once. And he was like, "Wait, really?" And I said, and it was me and Robinson, my singer. And I said, "Yeah, we were at the club. We met you, and you gave us both your autograph." And he was laughing. He goes, "Oh, I don't remember that at all, of course." And we're like, no, why would you? And then he goes, well, do you still have the autograph? I go, God, no, I gave it to some weird guy to cut my grass. And he thought it was so funny. He thought that was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
He was just dying.
That's great.
And speaking of Jimmy Page autographs, I think I told this already, but he was in Japan once, and the promoter brought in a very, very wealthy businessman over there. This is back in the 90s, like on a Page plant tour. And this guy had like a vault on wheels, and he opened it up and he showed Jimmy this guitar, and he says, I have something to show you. When's the last time you saw this? And he unzips this, metal guitar vault, and Jimmy looks at the guitar and he's like, I don't know what that is. And the guy that goes, this is your old guitar. You played this on the tour in 1977 or whatever the guy had been told. And Jimmy says, I've never seen that guitar in my life. And this guy had been conned. He'd paid like a couple $100,000 or something back then for this guitar. And it had been autographed. And Jimmy goes, that's not even my signature. It doesn't even look anything like it.
Ouch, babe.
And the guy was just crestfallen.
Yeah.
And Jimmy said, well, hang on. And he pulled the guitar out and he plugged it into his warm-up amp and he gave it a go and played a little bit. And he may have even, I don't want to make this up, but I'm almost confident, fairly confident, he used it on stage that night for one song. And then he actually signed it and then he handed it back to the guy.
Bravo.
Yeah, good man.
Yeah.
Good man, that James Patrick Page.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Immediate Family is the story of 4 session musicians who played on every record you've ever loved, basically. Director Denny Tedesco and bassist, legend around the Gorman household and any other musician's household, Leland Sklar. Danny Tedesco and Leland Sklar join us on the KQ Morning Show. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
It is an absolute pleasure to speak with you both. Immediate Family available on demand as of today. I want to start with you, Lee. Like any great story, or any of the ones I love anyway, this one is definitely not the result of grand design. No master plan whatsoever, was there?
No, I was completely taken aback when it was pitched to us from Denny that they wanted to do this, and I'm profoundly flattered and still kind of surprised that we were the subject of a documentary.
You're 4 session musicians, all young guys when you get together, and you're just looking for the next gig. You're happy that your phone rings. At no point back in the days when you were starting could you ever, I'm assuming, have imagined that, you'd be on the phone right now talking about these incredible recordings that have all become a part of our lives.
No, absolutely not. I mean, when our careers all began, I mean, we were just like in our early 20s and just happy to be employed musicians. Still feel that way to a great extent. And you never foresaw the future or the impact these songs would have. I mean, we were just thrilled to be working with our fellow musicians, and plus I was such a fan of the Wrecking Crew, and you kind of at that point in your career, you never feel you could ever be like these people. It was, they were, the benchmark of the recording industry, and then to find ourselves like this, it's really amazing to me. This has been a remarkable journey that we've been on, and the fact that it's just picking up steam and momentum at this point is really remarkable to me. But I'm still one of these guys that when the phone rings, I'm giddy.
Sure.
I love it.
Leland Sklar, Russ Kunkel, Waddy Wattel, and Danny Korchmar. Now, to a lot of people, everybody knows Carole King, James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, the names on the front of the record. But I grew up in a house. I'm a drummer. I had an older brother, guitarist, and he was a big liner note guy. Therefore, I became one. So your names were very familiar to me. For musicians of my the next generation of guys, you were the household names for all of us. And Danny Tedesco, you directed this documentary. I want to ask you, these songs, these albums that these 4 gentlemen are all a part of, it's for you to put a documentary together. It's like looking at like a sandwich from the Carnegie Deli. How do you even know where to start? How do you what was your thought on this? How do you begin? What's the way in? Because it's like a Mount Rushmore of recordings.
Excuse me, my voice is gone. In a weird way, it actually helps me because it sets the tone. I start doing my research going, oh, my God, he did this, or he did this. Like when I found out Leland was on Billy Cobham's Spectrum, that was one of my favorite albums growing up. I didn't realize Leland had been on that. I forgot if I had remembered.
Right.
And so there's a lot of things like that kept coming up. I kept buying albums, over the last 4 years to do the research. And then I started seeing all these songs that I never heard because it was on the B side. And I'm listening. It was a phenomenal education for me. It's fun.
Sure it is. Immediate Family is the documentary. It's available on demand today. Danny, I got to figure, you sat down and interviewed, obviously not just the 4 subjects, but the artists they played with. I mentioned a few of the names: Carole King, James Taylor, Stevie Nicks, Cross, Jackson Browne, all these household names. You must have had multiple extra hours of footage. I can't imagine it was easy to get them to stop talking about these players.
No, that's why I always say God gave us DVDs.
Yeah, great. That's just fantastic. Lee, you guys, the 4 of you, obviously great players. You're ringers, great feel and great intuition. So to me, it makes perfect sense that these artists at the time would gravitate to you. It's when you look back on the stuff you've played on, it's like an embarrassment of riches. The songwriting was absolutely up to the snuff of y'all's playing.
Mm-hmm. It was really like a golden age period for this, especially the singer-songwriter. But I have to say that really one of the reasons why everything, I think, worked as well as it did, we really owe to Peter Asher, who was managing and producing James Taylor at the time. He was one of the very first people who insisted that our names appear on the album jacket, where with the previous generation of the Wrecking Crew and musicians of that ilk, they were really pretty much invisible to the audience. When people were listening to Mamas and Papas and the Association and Frank Sinatra and all of that, they didn't know it was the same musicians on all that. But Peter put our names on it, on James's record. So when James hit, and he hit hard, when they started signing, the labels started signing singer-songwriters to their labels because of the success they were seeing with James. They looked at James's records and saw all our names on it and said, well, if those guys are good enough for James Taylor, let's track them down. Mm-hmm. And before you knew it, we were like the first call musicians in town, kind of without making any effort. It was really due to Peter's exposure of us, and then they loved what they heard. So, it was kind of this perfect storm came together for all of us.
Peter Asher's one of those guys, not unlike yourself, where the more you learn about what he's done, the more you're like, wait a minute, this guy's been everywhere. He's got a hand in so many great things.
Peter's remarkable. He's an absolute, this business wouldn't be what it is without Peter.
Yeah, well, wow, that's a very strong and very accurate statement for sure. The movie is, it's called Immediate Family documentary. It's available on demand today here in the Twin Cities. It's at the St. Michael's Cinema. They've got showtimes this weekend. So this was at a time, if we're going to go back to the beginning, we're talking about the early 70s, and the golden era for singer-songwriters. Like, how many sessions in a normal week would you have? Were you guys playing 7 days a week for a while there, Lee?
Oh, well, there's a lot of times we were working three sessions a day, usually 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. It was really insane because when I went in and did my first session, I had never been in the studio before except to cut one demo. And all of a sudden we were working around the clock trying to create a craft that we really had no experience in. So it was a real kind of like guerrilla warfare in there, trying to figure out what the hell we were doing during, while being the main guys getting called for work. So it was an adventure. I pinch myself every day that we even survived it. It's amazing.
There are plenty of people who didn't, to be sure. Yeah. And I do have to say, I almost forgot. Just as a drummer, I've ripped off Russ Kunkel as often as I possibly could. It's a constant reference point for so many drummers when you're thinking about a song and how does someone set up those choruses, those fills. Off kilter almost. There's so many very, very subtle syncopated things he does. He's literally one of my favorite drummers ever. I couldn't tell you the number of bassists I know that name check you right there at the top of the list. Just as a rhythm section, was that an immediate click? Is it one of those things where the first time you played with him, you went, okay, yeah, I'm on this guy?
I can measure it in nanoseconds. The minute we sat down and played together, it was like this absolute luck. I mean, I love Russ, and the thing I love about Russ's playing is there's a lot of great drummers in Los Angeles, but a lot of guys they're time drummers. Or Russ really plays more orchestrally.
Yeah, he
really thinks about parts that are really a little out of the box. And when you think of like Country Road and things like that in those days, to be doing what he was doing with brushes, where most guys, the brush was just something you do in a little cocktail kit, doing, like a casual.
Yeah.
And he really brought it to the forefront. So Russ is really a unique drummer. He really thinks so much about what parts he's laying down, and I love playing with Russ. I mean, I always tell people, I said, when we get together, it's like digging into the closet and finding that old pair of slippers that you put on and you go, oh God, it feels good.
Like Fire and Rain is I can't tell you how many times I've said, no, pull that up and just listen to the drums. Like, you're told in studio musicians a lot, it's like, get out of the way of the song. And it's like, or make it that much better if you're Russ Kunkel.
Yeah.
Truly
Absolutely.
Tremendous. Hey, Danny, so this and Wrecking Crew, I mean, my gosh, what that's, you got your arms around the two greatest group of session players ever. I guess your next documentary is just going to be you and a bunch of people at Apple with some AI programs. I mean, that's where we're headed, sadly enough. We're just not going to have guys like this, I think, for our kids to enjoy.
That's funny. No, I think the next one about Wolfman Jack.
Oh, all right. Tedesco, you're making us all happy over here. For any group of folks that work together, you in any realm, you hear about an unspoken language. Lee, you guys literally have had that for 50 years together, and we're all the recipients of that gift, and I just want to say thank you for everything.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm so proud of Danny and the team that put this film together, because when I sit there and watch it, it still blows my mind every time I see it.
It blows my mind to get to talk with you, sir. Thanks so much. Guys, both of you, best of luck with the film. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you, Minneapolis.
You got it.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Back to the best of the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
You get a couple of cocktails in you, yeah, you probably get extra loose. I'm name checking my privilege right here. No holiday party nightmares for me, and I'm happy about that right now. Chris, good morning.
Good morning.
What have you got for us?
Oh, a bad story.
Oh, I like it already.
About 5 or 6 years ago, we had a Christmas party, and I was standing at a table with a couple of coworkers, and another coworker who had been out dancing her ass off came walking up to us, and she had projectile vomit right at us. I turned my head, but it ended up in my mouth. And
No.
all over my face. It was so bad.
Oh, you got the vomit kiss.
So I ran to the bathroom, and then I was throwing up, and
Yeah.
people thought I was the problem child, and I'm like, no. And went outside with my shirt off. I was just covered with her vomit. It was bad.
Oh, my
Wow.
God.
Please tell me there was all sorts of gifts sent to you over the following months. I mean, how do you make up for throwing up on a coworker?
She gave me $25 on Monday to pay for my purse, because my purse was full of vomit, so I threw that out.
Oh,
No,
my
jeez.
I can still taste it.
Oh,
What it tastes like.
Oh, gross. It was sour.
Sour
Oh.
Anytime I have to throw up, I just think of that story, and I'm out.
Yeah.
And she apologized a few times, but it took me a while to talk to her.
Yeah, I watched
That's
someone
amazing.
puke all over a boss one time. She was crying in his arms.
jeez, man.
Yep.
All the gin puke and all the Christmas parties in the world, and
Yeah.
you had to come and lay it down on me. Chris, you've set a bar really high for the rest of this show.
Or
If anybody
low.
can top that, all the best. I hope you get through this next month vomit-free, Chris.
That's horrible. There was a woman I know at an office holiday party who had also thrown up all over her dress and was completely unaware of it.
Oh,
and just
yeah,
walking around
yeah.
making small talk with people. Just painted up.
I played a New Year's Eve party. Me and my brother and some friends in college. We were called Alfred and the Stately Wayne Manners, which was a
nice.
great band name. There was a girl in the party named Robbie, and she was wearing a white dress, and she was dancing and having the time of her life. And at one point, she was dancing on a chair, and she went right over the arm, and just bam, and she smashed her face on the floor so hard. She was so drunk. She popped up and kept dancing. And she was bleeding.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
it looked like the Zapruder film. And she's just like, come on, let's go. And my brother looked at her. He goes, she had been wearing a white dress up to that point. He goes, Robbie, you look great in red.
Oh, nice.
That's one of the best lines in the moment I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, wow.
The KQ Morning Show.
You, Maggie Ferris.
Yes.
Local gal, you're about to cross the Rubicon. You are about to enter yourself into the Guinness Book of World Records.
That's a true story.
The funniest joke ever told, the longest stand-up set ever.
Do you know what the longest stand-up set ever? It was like 47 hours.
Billy Connolly, that's my guess.
That's every set he ever did. Yeah.
Come on, the guy wouldn't shut up.
He's the winner.
Here is the title. Most dogs walked simultaneously by an individual.
The record right now is 36, and I am going for between 50 and 60. It would
Do you
be
have
really
to
cool.
pick up after them while you're on the walk with the little
there's
bags?
going to be a cleanup committee.
I thought Maggie wanted my input, and all she wanted me to do was pick up dog crap.
I know.
Man, I'm so excited that I kind of think I could poop right now.
You're allowed. It's America.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
Have you ever quit a job on day one? Here it is. Cindy wrote, I did as a young woman going to work at Burger King. They wanted me to put on a red shirt. I went in the bathroom and was going to put it on, but instead walked out the back door. Redhead, don't wear red. Yeah. I love it.
I know someone, Maureen, a friend of mine right here in Minnesota, went to work for an A&W, and she came back after that first day because we were all excited. We thought we were getting free fast food for life.
Of course.
What didn't work out? A&W, they wanted her to wear a brown polyester top and bottom, and she said, look at my hips. I can't wear brown.
I worked at a Wendy's for one day. I was a junior in high school. The manager was a senior at my same school, and he said, come work for me at Wendy's. And I said, sounds like a plan. What's the food story? He said, you just load up, man. Go for it. I said, great. I mentioned on my way out the door to my dad that I'd been hired, that I had a job at Wendy's. And my dad said, and this wasn't news to me, but he had just decided to go into the restaurant business, and he had bought a restaurant in town that was already up and running and not doing so well. And he looked at me and said, no, son, you're working at the restaurant, which was his way of saying, no, you're going to work for free all summer, which is exactly what I did.
Yes.
So I went to Wendy's. I walked into my first shift to quit. I did get a bowl of chili and a Frosty. Don't worry. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah, first things first.
I mean, yeah, that was quitting a job that I didn't have a choice in. Usually, it's more the employee's choice to just walk right out. Zep, surely, my man, you're on this list.
Between radio jobs, went to work for a telemarketing company selling credit card insurance. And I thought, this sucks. But, I'm getting through. I'm about halfway through my first shift when the lady next to me says, blah, 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 yeah, and she goes, and it's all a scam. I said, what do you mean it's a scam? We're selling credit card insurance. She said, your credit card is already insured. We're just selling you double insurance that you don't need. And I went, okay, even I can't do this because I'm calling little old ladies in Brooklyn.
Right.
Waiting for, you got to get 3 no's out of them. After 2 no's, they're like, you sound like a sweet boy. I'll just take it. No, don't take it. My God, woman.
If the woman who told you it was a scam, if she'd been super hot, would you have stayed there?
Yes. And if it had paid $2 an hour more, I would have stayed there.
Sure. Okay, just making sure. Tony, the Mr. Responsible around here, I know for a fact you've also left on day one.
Yeah, I scooted the first day. Back in the day, downtown Minneapolis housed an upscale shopping center, including FAO Schwartz, a high-end toy store.
Yeah.
And as a struggling improv comedy performer, we all took jobs as characters when the store opened. I thought, I got a guitar, I have a cowboy hat. I'm a singing cowboy.
Yeah.
I knew like 2 chords, and I felt humiliated all day. The store played this endless loop of welcome to our world.
The FAO Schwartz. No, man, that song is unbearable.
All day. So I just told the manager, I forgot to tell you I'm moving to Chicago and I'm leaving today. I don't know why it had to be that specific. I could have just quit. But it sounded cool.
Candace, have you ever left a job on day one?
I always wait it out a little bit, which makes it harder to leave,
Sure.
I always want to give it a chance.
Are we talking about relationships or jobs here?
What's the difference?
What is the difference?
It's all work.
You're
That's right.
It's work.
I got hired at a grocery store. They needed someone in produce. I said, I got this, man. No problem. And he said, I'm going to need you to start Saturday at 10 a.m. And I looked this man dead in the eye, shook his hand, and I said, I will see you Saturday at 9:45 because Don Gorman told me you 15 minutes early is late. So I said, yeah, I'll be there. And my phone, I lived in an apartment with a singer in my band at that time, a little local band going nowhere fast. That phone rings at 10:15, and I literally roll over. I'm like, hello? I'm calling for Steve, and I immediately was like, oh, this doesn't sound like a friend. And I go, yeah, this is he. Literally no idea that what's happening. I walked out of that store on the Wednesday and completely forgot I had even applied, much less been hired. And he said, this is so-and-so at Houchins. And I went, oh. And he said, you were supposed to be here at 10. And I said, I didn't say I have to move to Chicago, but I came up with the next best thing was, oh, yeah, sorry, man, I broke my foot. I have no idea where that came from. And the guy said, okay, and just hung up on me. And I was like, damn, can never go into Houchins again.
I think you heard the broken foot before.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, the old broken foot.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
My point is, these things are all genetic. Like, you can look at your parents and go, hey, thanks for that, or thanks for not giving me that, which, is interesting. Your parents will give you a lot of information. Some things they're very happy to tell you about, like how they met. I met your mother in 5th grade. I heard that story my whole life. One thing my parents never told me was where or how or what the context was for my conception.
Oh.
And in fact, I never thought to ask. I don't think I want to know. And I say this because in Illinois the other day, there's an oasis, a rest stop. And Illinois closed down this highway rest stop because they're going to do some road expansions. And a 21-year-old dude chained himself to the front doors so that the wrecking ball would not swing. So, okay, you see people chaining themselves to a redwood tree.
Yeah.
Or you see people like chaining themselves to a public library. He chained himself to a rest area off the highway in Illinois. He said, you don't understand. You can't knock down this rest area. This is where I was conceived. His parents, in the summer of 2001, after attending a Genesis concert in Chicago on the way back to wherever they lived, couldn't wait. They had to pull over. They had to get to know each other all over again at a rest area. And that is where the magic happened. And so this kid is literally saying, this is a sacred spot for my whole family. This is the place I was conceived.
I'm trying to forget the moment that I found out. Yeah, most of us that accidentally came across that information are trying desperately not to think about that information, let alone, make your stand based on that. My mom did not start drinking until later in life. And some years ago, less than 10 years ago at Christmas, with all the little kids running around, mom's into the wine in the kitchen there a little bit. But I can hear her from across the room. Well, Brian was conceived in a Catholic church parking lot. Your dad and I went out on a date, and we were driving back, and we couldn't wait any longer, and we whipped into the first parking lot as Catholic church, and my feet went up on the dash, and I went, Mom!
Oh, she got that detailed?
That detailed! I was like, Mom! So, Tony, you don't know. I mean, your parents were all proper about it. They never suggested to you where you were conceived.
Well, there was mention of a stork, and I just leave it at that. I don't know what the question is.
That was Larry Stork. That's a whole different thing.
Yes, he delivered milk.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm so glad to know.
And here's what I've come up with. Boys and girls, I was conceived on consecrated ground. I don't know where you guys are heading to the afterlife, but I'm skipping the line. I'm probably got a seat at the head table, trying to look at the glass half full there.
And Mom is limber.
Oh, Jesus. Anyone else?
No, I have no clue. I guarantee you my parents don't even know because I was the 8th kid, and I don't think they were keeping up with too much of anything at that point. It was like if they could, I don't know, maybe Thanksgiving was pretty extra special that year. Son and Thanksgiving of 1964, the turkey was a little more moist than normal, and I don't know, there was something about that white wine at the table.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.